collaboration strategies that you can use to be successful. And finally, we're going to end off with showing you the technical aspects we mentioned earlier. So, defining collaboration, right? In a word, it's teamwork, working together, but it's also much more than that. It's a process where everyone involved should be responsible for communicating effectively, for setting expectations, for setting roles, and many more we'll cover in later slides. So don't think of it as something that's done at once. Think of it as an ongoing process where you have to keep it consistent and stay consistent, right? And secondly, an important part that'll make you successful in collaborating is essentially to divide and conquer with different tasks, right? If you're working in a team, you could have one person take care of design, you could have one person take care of models, you could have one person take care of programming, you could have one person take care of marketing. So by dividing roles, it allows each person to do what they're best at, and it maximizes efficiency and productivity as a whole. Finally, and I want to exemplify this point, communication is key. In any relationship, professional or personal, you have to make sure that your ideas are communicated across and presented well. So this is paramount in collaboration, especially in game development, as there are multiple different aspects, and the roles we mentioned earlier, they all come together to make the game. So you have design communicating what kind of models and what kind of style they want to the modelers who build that. You have the programmers communicating what their mechanics do so that everyone else can incorporate it. You have marketers incorporating what kind of strategies they'll use to make the game more successful. And essentially, it's that coming together of ideas and that communication, which is the difference between just working together and actual collaboration. And here's a quote that exemplifies that, right? If you just communicate, you can get by, but if you communicate effectively, you can work miracles. And I think that quote is never more true than in the world of game development. If you communicate effectively, you can turn just a game into a work of art that's all based upon your ideas and your vision for your game. So now that we got the fundamentals going, let's get into some more specific collaboration strategies that we can all work on to make our entire process successful and at the end come up with a successful product, right? The first thing is to set roles and norms. In any team, each person has a role, right? One person might be the deadline guy who holds everyone accountable. One person might be the programmer who writes code for mechanics, right? So, and it's important that these roles and norms are defined because it just leaves too much up for interpretation. In any team, it's good to be structured, and defining roles for each member really helps with that. So everyone knows what they're doing, everyone knows what's expected of them, and everyone can work their best to provide what's expected of them and to do their best in their role specifically. Think of it as a machine, and each person is a very important part of the machine. If one person breaks down, it just won't work. But you have everyone working together, well, you create a beautiful cog that runs together with everyone all on the same page. And speaking about same page, an important part of that is open communication. Like I mentioned before, communication is key. So to communicate effectively, you need to have a system for communication. So maybe say regular meetings, say every week you guys meet and discuss ideas, discuss problems, discuss ways you can help each other. And this is one of the most important parts, is feedback. Of course, in any process there's going to be problems, and to find those problems, you need self-reflection and feedback from one another. In that way, you can identify what's wrong and you can work together as a team to fix it. Finally, it's important that everyone's on the same page. In that way, like I said before, your team works like a well-oiled machine. Finally, you have to hold each other and yourself accountable for your responsibilities, for your expectations, and for your role. So ways to do that are setting measurable goals. And measurable means goals that can be measured as in how well you do them, maybe setting deadlines for those goals so that everyone is on time and you can complete this in a timely manner. And it's important to know your responsibilities to the team and your responsibilities to the project. Now, those might seem like the same thing, but they're different. Your responsibilities to the project consist of your role and what you do, right? And your responsibilities to the team are different. Those include the points you mentioned before: open communication, establishing feedback, and positive criticism of yourself and reflection of others. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into collaboration in Unity in specific. So Unity has some specialized programs that allow developers to basically work together on the same project and update it as you go. Arsh, you can take it. Arsh? I'm not sure if you can hear me. Okay. So Arsh is getting the slideshow presentation. No, sorry. The technical aspect ready for presentation. So I'm just going to go over some of the topics covered in Unity collaboration, right? So the nature of collaboration, it's very base to base. So the way it works is you have a Unity project and you have a game that you're developing. When you share it with others, you allow others to make edits to that. So it's not so much you work on the same thing at the same time. It's more so you have this one project and you both update it, where updates have to be approved by the other person. And I think that's a really efficient way because it makes sure that mistakes are detected and it makes sure that mistakes are fixed. So say Arsh and I were working together on a game. If I made a mistake or if I designed something poorly, Arsh would go into Unity, he would open up the project, and he would comment on it, and he would basically comment with code fixes or comment with design fixes, modeling fixes, anything. And I would then look at it and be like, oh hey, this is something I can fix, and I would fix it. Or if I don't agree with it, I would talk to Arsh and I'll be like, hey, maybe we could do it this way, but this way works best, I think. And this also, I think, reinforces that idea of feedback and that that loop of open communication. Secondly, it's based on a cloud sharing platform. So a internet connection is needed to collaborate on Unity. And finally, the platform we use is called Plastic SCM, which is kind of like a plugin for Unity, which allows the collaboration to happen and which allows you to share projects with other people.
Yes, yes. I think we can now dive into the more technical aspects of the using Plastic SCM for source control. So, first step, what you got to start off is the classic making making a Unity project. So you are going to need Unity installed for this, by the way. So make sure you have that done, and then we will have a recording in case you don't have it installed up. But for collaborating within Unity, you first have to create a new project, and this could be any project right now, or you want to open your own project. It's okay. Either one works. But let's make a simple 2D empty project. That's great. That'll work. And of course, you let the Unity, go through its little process of creating everything. But in the meantime, let's talk about what Plastic SCM really means and what source control means. So the basics of source control, that's a big fancy word, but essentially all it means is that once you make a change in Unity, that change will not be uploaded onto the cloud or like your shared project until you fully commit, or as Unity likes to call it, check it in. And you'll see that more. But what we're going to focus on right now is not the specific source control. We're going to go focus more on how to actually install it for your Unity and how to actually get your friends and all your team members into Unity. So first step, what you want to do is you want to go over to your window. You want to go over to your package manager. The package manager is your friend when it comes to starting up and setting up all these different packages. And once this loads up, we're looking for the source control, version control package. Right here, you'll see it. And you want to make sure this is installed. What this will do, as you can see here, it'll allow you to use Plastic SCM for Unity. And it does say Plastic SCM subscriptions required. However, it's completely free for teams under 3 people and those who are only using 5 gigabytes or less actively. So it's very accessible for things like a game jam, and we would strongly recommend using it for your kind of activities. So make sure you have the version control package installed. It's under Unity, it's below Unity UI, above Visual Scripting, and you want to make sure that's installed. Now, once that's installing in the background, how do we actually set up Plastic SCM? So we're gonna have to start off with going over to the window, and there we go, Plastic SCM, right in Unity. Click on that, and you'll see these next steps to complete a project. Step 1 is a login or sign up to complete a Plastic account. I've already done this. So what you need to do is there'll be the option to sign in with your browser, and it'll open up a window. And I'll talk you through it right now because since I already created my account, I can't show you the visuals. But essentially, you'll open up your account. It's going to ask to log in with your Unity. And you want to make sure you're logged in with Unity online. Then, if you say you want Plastic free, it's going to go through the process, and you're going to go to a payment page. But if you look to the right, it's going to say $0, 00. It's completely free. So you're going to have to input all the information, payment method, but you will not be charged as it's completely free for teams under 3 people at 5 gigabytes. And it's very easy to track this metric, so don't be afraid about using this very, very powerful tool. So you want to log in and sign up for a Plastic account first. But then you see this interesting create a Plastic workspace. Now that is the core thing we're going to get into. So if we click on that, we'll see that we can see that I have a repository name and I have a workspace name, but might be slightly different for you guys involved. So let's head to our dashboard real quick. For those of you who don't know, this is the Unity dashboard, and this is where the crucial point of setting up the Plastic SCM project really comes into play. If you don't know how to get here, you have to get to dashboard.unity3d.com. It's a little bit small on the stream, but it's dashboard.unity3d.com, and you want to be logged in. Now, I'll give you a few minutes to do that while I explain what is the Unity dashboard for those who don't know. The Unity dashboard is basically your friend when it comes to source control. You want to make sure it's basically you get help to manage your team members, and it's how you actually get your team members involved on your projects. It's one thing setting up source control. It's another actually inviting. Let's say if I wanted to invite Socket over to work on my project, it's another whole thing. So we're now on dashboard.unity3d.com, and there's a lot of features, but the only one we care about right now is DevOps. Click here, and there's a lot of different menus. We don't really bother with this right now. What we want to go to is Plastic SCM. Let me just resize it. Okay, Plastic SCM right here, and that is our core source control manager, and it's how we're going to set it up. So once you have an account, you should be able to see this, and you want to click on organizations. Now, I already have a test organization made, but you should see a button here saying create your own organization, and you'll type in a name, you go through the whole process, and you can create an organization here. Within the organization itself, you can then invite your specific members. For example, in this test repository, I already invited Socket and invited him to work in the project. So that is essentials of making an organization within Plastic SCM. Now, I'm sure you guys are going through the process of creating an account with Plastic SCM and all those things. So I'll give you some more time to follow those instructions while I explain a little bit more what's happening. Now, in Plastic SCM, there's also going to be a thing called repositories. And if you use GitHub before, it's very similar. You'll create these repositories within Unity itself. So don't worry about creating a new repository right now. So hopefully by now you have your organization set up. If not, we're going to have a recording so you can keep following along. But now you should be able to select your organization, and the repository name should be properly being created. So let's head back to Unity. So we're back in Unity, and you can see it's a little bit small, but you can see that there's a repository name, there's a workspace name, and hopefully everything should be working. If not, try signing in again and restarting Unity. Now you can call this repository whatever you want. I'm making a test to the game, but as it's global game jam right now, I'll call this, GGJ 23, and then roots. And we can also call the workspace whatever we want too, but I'll leave it as it is. So now that we have this repository name defined, and we have this roots defined, workspace defined, we see these two, how do you prefer to work? Now, this really goes to what kind of role you play in the Unity team. As Socket said earlier, it's really important to diversify your skills and hone down on what each role is doing and which person is responsible for. And Plastic SCM helps refine that. So you can see here that is small, but I need branching, merging, and the ability to push pull in the Plastic workspace. What that means is Plastic workspace usually is usually the workspace used for someone who's very deep rooted in the code of the project and needs to constantly make versions of the game for beta testing, updated versions, those kind of administrators and developers. And most likely in your game jam, you're not going to need that right now. Once you start publishing and getting a full branch and multiple versions of the game going, then branching and merging really come into play. Then it says you only need to check in your work. And this says the Glue One workspace. The Glue One workspace is meant for more artistic individuals who only need to put some images in, put some animations in. However, it's also still beneficial for the game developer, especially in a global game jam. You're not going to really be using these features. You're only going to be really checking in, most likely. So you can use either one. I would recommend, if you want, use the Plastic workspace to get all the features. You might not use them right now, but it's nice to have them. And if you want to limit your features, you can go to the Glue One workspace. Before this tutorial, I'll follow the Plastic workspace. Now, if you create the workspace, you let it load. It's computing. And then you'll see all these diff assets. And if you're working on a pre-existing project, you'll see a lot more. You'll most likely see a full list of like 400, 300 items if you're working in a pre-existing project. But we're with a lot of assets and different things. But we're not. So what you want to do is, no matter how long this list is, you want to just click Added and Private. What this does is selects all your changes for check-in. And check-in is essentially, you know how Google Docs you type something and it instantly appears? There's also like an editing mode where you can type something, and once you're completely typed, you can press that check mark, and then it's added to the document. Plastic SCM is very similar. When I first add everything, you're typing in your document. Once you're ready, you can then check in those changes. You check in all your different things. So now you see this check-in comment. Now the check-in comment is really, describing what exactly you're putting in there. So once you're working with someone, you're gonna see a list. You're gonna see a lot of changes. For example, if I go here, you can see change sets, and you can actually see different comments I've made and seeing, hey, which core changes, which changes did I actually make in each thing, so it can actually track that. So that's why the comments really matter, because you want to be able to accurately explain what's happening. And as someone who's actively involved in software development, comments are one of the most important things. Because a year by now, if you're still working on your game, and you want to figure out, okay, who added this file, when was this file added, your comments are going to be the way to find it out. So you don't want to type in garbage over here. You want to type in something that accurately represents what you're doing. And as I'm setting up my project, I'm going to type in initializing project for Plastic SCM. Or just setting up a project for Plastic SCM. And then when you click check-in changes, they'll start taking some time. If you have a lot more files, it's going to take a lot more time. But now no pending changes. That's amazing. We no longer have any changes that we have to make. But now, let's get a better feel for how this actually works. So let's say, how do I import new changes now? Whenever you create something, let's say I let me just create a sprite right now. 2D square. Let's say I create a square right now. And I drag him over here. And I can start modifying the scripts. I make a script. You can go to new script, whatever. Let's say start modifying your project. What do you do now? Now, remember, if you don't have this Plastic SCM window, you go to Window, Plastic SCM, and then boom, you have your added, your changed items, and your added and private items. And these are the two items we just added right now. And these can be your sprites, your animations, whatever you want. So added in private, and then you go to check-in. I said I can added a square, a white square, that does nothing. Because it doesn't do anything, and it's what I did. And there we go. Now we have a white square that does nothing, and we can check in that change. And now it's uploaded online into the cloud. But now you have this source control planned out. You have all this planned out. How do you actually get the person sitting next to you working on your project?
Hey Arsh, I can't hear you if you're talking. Yeah, hey everyone. That basically wraps up our essentials. And just to recap what we covered, we basically went over the fundamentals of collaboration, the principles, and the mindset you need to be in to effectively collaborate with your teammates in any workspace. It doesn't have to be game development. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be for a project. Just any collaboration with fellow peers. Adopting a mindset of open communication, setting roles, and holding each other accountable is key for success. And secondly, we covered some collaboration strategies, such as, again, open communication, roles and norms for the team, and accountability to make sure that everyone does their part. And finally, Arsh delved into a bit of the technical aspects of Unity collaboration, covering source control, repositories, the check-in function of Unity Plastic SCM, and ways that make collaborating really easy on Unity to where you and your teammate can be on the same page and you can work on a project where you both contribute equally and have ideas that are taken as feedback and accepted. And yeah, we'd just like to wrap things up. Any closing thoughts, Arsh?
Yeah.
Um, which will be a guest speaker talking about game development and further delving into topics. Thank you.